And also, I am sharing with Noah Tremblay the Accessibility Committee meeting today. We have a pretty packed agenda, and we're really excited about a lot of some special guests that we have today as well. So we have, I think everyone got the agenda. We're going to review our spreadsheet for the Washington and State Street streetscaping projects, make recommendations to the city on improvements using the form, talk about city pool accessibility, and hopefully come up with some feedback with Noah with his job, and to also review the AARP subcommittees and possible overlap, along with working with a couple developers who are working with the Affordable Housing Commission. So first, let's just go around and introduce ourselves. I introduce myself. I also work for the Athens County Board of Developmental Disabilities as well. Let's go down to Diane. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Diane Bouvier, recently retired from Ohio University, and I've been on the City Commission. I'm also president of the Board for Passion Works, and I've been a resident of Athens for a long time. So,
all right, great. Thank you, Diane. Thanks for taking notes. Let's go over to Mr. Rob Delac.
Hi, I'm Rob Delac. I've been participating here about transportation issues mostly. The walk and roll audits we've been doing, been assisting with those. And so my issues that I'm advocating for generally are biking, walking, accessibility for the city of Athens.
Great. Thank you, Rob. And Rob's been a committee member for a couple of years now, at least, so we really appreciate you. Let's go over to Tiffany.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Beals, and I'm a fairly new member joining in this spring. So thanks for having me. I currently am employed at Ohio University and work with the Accessibility Liaison Group at Ohio University as well.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. Let's go up to Paul. Real Paul.
Hi, everyone. I am the real Paul Logue on this meeting. There's a few imposters out there, I think, but nice to see everybody. I'm the planner for the city of Athens, and Davey and Noah, thanks for inviting me to the meeting.
Absolutely. Mentioning Noah, do you want to introduce yourself, Noah?
Noah Tremblay. I'm an owner of Noah Tremblay Enterprises and vice chair.
All right. Of the City Commission on Disabilities, to finish out that sentence. Noah and I have co-chaired enough to where we can finish each other's sentences sometimes. And then we have Eli over here. Do you want me to introduce you, Eli, or are you able to introduce yourself?
Go ahead, David. I don't know my house.
Awesome. Thank you, Eli, and thanks for joining us today. Eli's been trained on some ADA stuff with the rest of us a few years ago now. And then we have a ghost Paul Logue down here that's just completely black.
Yes.
I don't know who that is.
Hi, everybody. Hey, I'm Frank Fugate. I'm the Woda Cooper Companies. We're the folks developing out on Rig and 82. So we're here to talk about ADA.
Okay, great. Thank you, Frank. And then Joseph, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Joe McCabe, Vice President of Development with Woda Cooper Companies. And I'll talk a little bit more about our company later on when we get a spot here on the agenda to talk about our project. Also here with Frank Fugate, and look forward to working with you all and showing you what we got instead.
Okay. Yeah, I think one thing that I'd like to do is just go ahead and just kind of move your group up to the front of the agenda so that, a lot of this probably won't really affect you. And since you're already here, we could go ahead and go straight into the work that you're doing and the developments so that we could provide some feedback and see what the next steps are for us.
Sure. Okay. And would it be possible I can go ahead and share a screen as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect. So anything I share here, of course, today is a work in progress, but we are moving along quite well. So just again, Joe McCabe, and I know the other Paul Logan here is Frank Fugate, who's here with me as well. Frank is very knowledgeable of the area, but we're both based out of Columbus, Ohio. We did a really cool project already just recently, not long ago in Nelsonville, with the old Nelsonville School, and converting that building and actually saving that old historic school. One of the challenges with it was actually updating its accessibility, making sure it complied with modern building code and going above and beyond to incorporate even universal design features. But so we were able to secure some housing credits to build a pair of development sites at the corner of Plains Road and 682 and Lurig Road, which is a site that I think would be familiar to some. It's right across the street from University Estates Boulevard. The project will have each side of the pond will be sort of straddled by two projects about the same size and concept. One is a 51 unit site and one is a 56 unit site. Just to kind of give you also a little bit of background about Woda Cooper, we are a 15 state footprint company. However, we're located in Columbus. We have over 300 properties. About 100 of those properties are actually in Appalachian, Ohio. We're very familiar with Ohio. We love Ohio. We're all Ohio based. And we take great care of our properties as far as we build these properties. We develop them. We manage them. We don't sell them off. That's a very big, crucial thing. And we really care about the tenants we house. Long-term, these are properties for the most part that will hold individuals who have incomes ranging from 30 to 80% AMI or average median income. So quite often, a lot of our units are purely affordable and are really for residents in need. And kind of part and parcel with that, we have about 60% of our portfolio is senior housing. And all of our projects feature units for either the disabled, fully accessible, and many of our projects are completely universally designed or have integrated features for aging in place. So I will share with you a screen here just to first share with you this one here. You should be able to see right now at least a little map of the area. And the area we're talking about is this site right here on the west side of Plains Road or 682. Let me bounce back to being able to hopefully share another slide here. Sorry, I'm just figuring this out. Stop share for a minute here and let me share with you. This is a preliminary site plan that we're looking at right now. This is just, again, conceptual. We are working through a lot of the planning and zoning processes now, both with the city of Athens, with the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, who is actually providing the housing credits for this development. So what you see here is north is orientated towards the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. And you can see the existing pond here in the middle. And you can see there's two flanking buildings, if you will, sort of bookends mirroring each other around that pond right now as a concept. Each site would be connected via a series of accessible walkways around that pond, retaining that beautiful natural feature. Grading would be done in a way that all of the parking and residential areas would be up and out of the floodplain areas. And on that, we have a number of poured concrete accessible spaces located closest to the housing. In Woda's experience, we find that doing any of the accessible areas in concrete has stood the test of time better than putting in just asphalt to keep slopes in line, cross checks, etc. So we're real sensitive to that, just given the nature of what is we do. We only do affordable housing. We have with 30 years of experience doing that. So in this concept, we've made sure to integrate more than is required in the way of ADA parking spaces. I feel that's a pretty important thing. Additionally, with each of these sites, we are currently featuring 6 fully accessible ground floor units in each development. Each development will have a 3-story building on it, but we wanted to make sure that we were providing additional units beyond what is code required. So we took it from 3 units to 6 units, just knowing that we quite often get a lot of requests for accessible units. We get folks that age in place, a lot of seniors that then go from, needing, originally they may have moved in our property with minor impairments, but then may have mobility issues later on. As well as we also will have additional units for sensory disabilities. So we have 2 additional units at each property as well that serve in capacity for sensory impairments. And so in total, we would have a total of 12 ADA or accessible units, and we would have a total of 4 sensory units spread throughout the property, both sides of the pond, not collectively in one place. And as far as a breakdown of those goes, is 4 of those are 1-bedroom, 4 of those are 2-bedroom, and 4 of those are 3-bedroom, because we realize families come in all different shapes and sizes and have very different needs from household to household. So we've actually, came up with a various set of different types of unit layouts to make sure we have accessible paths running through them, and to come up with a variety of configurations and size to meet the needs of the individual user. I should mention also that the 3 bedrooms also have an additional half bath as well that we feel really benefits the project or those units themselves. Even for units that may be on upper floors, that may not necessarily be considered ADA accessible units by definition, we still feature all of the wider features, the clearances. We do provide the wider 36-inch doors. We meet all the clearances and thresholds, the maneuver down hallways. And that's just part of our organic approach of trying to, again, build in as many features as you can that really don't cost anything throughout the life of a project. In all of the units, for example, you would have, rocker switches for light switches. You would have faucets with paddle handles. You would have ADA-friendly hardware in every kitchen. Why put it on just one? Put it in all. And we also build in within all of our units additional blocking behind the walls for future grab bar installation, even if it's not an ADA unit. Should somebody need blocking additionally later, we want to be able to make those reasonable accommodations pretty quickly. So that's kind of just a snapshot of the project. I've sort of kept it brief, and really I would love to open it up to any of you if you have questions that you would like to ask of myself. But before doing that, I'd actually ask Frank. Frank, do you have anything to add to this that you want to throw in here?
Joe, I think you did a great job. Thank you. The one thing I would throw in, just so everybody knows, that everything will have access to the dumpsters, the outdoor grills, the parking areas, the play areas, the community shelters. And our company, will understand that we will keep the grades, the 5% running slopes, and the 2% cross. And if you look at the topography, we have quite a bit of cut and, not a lot, but we have some cut and fill so that we are able to keep the total site ADA compliant. So that's the only thing that's the only thing I have is that, just the whole sidewalks and everything will be, wheelchair ADA accessible.
The entrance to the buildings, are they both from Lurig, or is one of the entrances from 682 as well?
Yeah. So I can bring the site plan back up here for a minute. Which is often pretty handy. So right now we are discussing having 2 entrances to the property to make it easier for individuals once they move in. We feel like one common entrance puts too much traffic sort of in one place right now, the way the site would lay out and the way we want to work the grading to flatten out some of those areas of the site. So we would have an entrance both off of 682 and an entrance off of Lurig Road as well. And then there will also be a community building space. There will be on-site office space with an on-site manager. There'll be on-site maintenance as well. That's another important feature of our developments. A fitness room or fitness facility, and just, playground, walking spaces, all those items being accessible as well.
Yeah, just to get a clear sense, the squiggly lines on the top, what are some of, so I see like the parking spots. This is like a parking lot kind of in the, like next to both buildings, but what else is included if you zoom in?
Sure. This is just some of the civil engineer's preliminary grading to how to rework the grades of the site, taking both the existing grades and then adjusting them so that we can have our stormwater pond and detention area on the site and create it as an amenity feature. Check all of the sidewalks for compliance and to make sure that the grading is all worked out between the two sites and to make sure it's cohesive. And then even the grading within the parking lot, he's already started to do some of the cross-checking of the slopes and the direction and the flow to also, A, make sure it's above the floodplain levels, as well as to B, make sure that we're doing it in a way that minimizes any grading and creates the best condition across the project, regardless of disability or no disability. We think that's rather important. He's started to look at some of the actual finished floor definitions, if you will, as far as what those finished floor elevations are on a basis. You can see he's even started to call out where it would be best to have some of the ADA units. The units are served by breezeways, so as you're coming in off of a sidewalk, there's actually an open air corridor that is between or separating units. So everybody has their own front door and entryway area. And so we've started to identify those and make sure that there's some that are both facing the parking lot and some that are facing the pond. And, again, break it up in areas that make sense and put them throughout the development in both various sizes and styles.
Okay, yeah, I think.
Now, what are the doors within the accessible units?
All of the accessible units have 36-inch doors. They all have a clear path, if you will, and our architect has done a good job of already in the conceptual phase starting to lay out that when you move through the unit, they assume some furniture layouts, which of course we know everybody's furniture is a little different, but to really check to make sure that you do have clearances moving through a unit, that closets are accessible, that bathrooms have full turning radiuses, that there are step-in showers or roll-in showers. In these cases, ADA units have roll-in showers. That you have the toilet clearances and side clearances and front clearances, and that we even have clearances at the washer and dryer hookups that are provided in all the units. So they're very big about doing that. Of course, these are some hypothetical furniture arrangements, but we want to make sure that our architect is keeping track of that at all times to make sure it's maintained. So all of the doors would be 36-inch doors.
Yeah, this is really well thought out. I'm pretty impressed by the floor plans. And yeah, I think it's just really well done. You had said that there was it's kind of like targeted for people at 30 to 80% of the income.
Yes, that is correct.
Median income. What numbers would that be in Athens County? Is that for Athens City or Athens County?
That would be for Athens County. I would actually have to pull up the most current stats, and I can do that here in pretty quick order here.
Okay.
Hey, Carolyn.
All right, Carolyn. I didn't see you sneak in there.
Hello.
Athens is trying to move toward 42-inch doors.
Okay. If we are able to, I would take that into consideration and see if we could actually get our architect to work on doing that. That probably makes sense, especially at the entries of units where it would be a very easy approach to do. And obviously, I would like to say my background, by the way, is even though I'm in development, I worked for a long time as an architect. So I'm very sensitive to this. And one of my teachers is actually the original writers of the ADA code when it first came out in Washington, D.C. So he was a mentor of mine. So I'm sort of very sensitive to it. And a lot of things we talk about are integrating these features because they just make sense. For everything from not only just mobility and wheelchairs, but extra large deliveries, getting a new washer or dryer brought in. All of those things here to help when you have these larger entryways. So I will definitely put that on our list of things to look at with our architect and get back to you on. That might be a possibility of what we could do.
The other thing we found at the university, I used to do ADA stuff there, was that the circumference in the bathrooms usually needed to be bigger than the 5-foot requirement. I couldn't tell on your drawing what they were.
Yeah, so they are the 5 foot, but we have beyond 5 feet on the clearance.
Okay.
Yeah, for the bathroom itself, we're probably easily at 6 feet. And then that excludes any of the areas underneath the sinks, et cetera, as well, which then offer obviously additional feet or knee clearances, which definitely helps. So I did pull up the current Athens County rent income and schedule that's provided by HUD every year, and that's updated every year. So it looks like for a single person, that would be an income of about $14,000. Up to 80% would be $39,500. Or in a case of maybe a household of 3 or 4 people, that would be about $21,000 up to $56,000. So obviously, this is addressing a wide range of housing needs, both in size of the units and income approaches. And those incomes are determined obviously by the household size. I'm rather sure that once we would be a little bit further along in construction, we would anticipate breaking ground for construction next spring and being done about 13 months later. So this would put probably this project ready for leasing in really early summer of 2022. And about 3 or 4 months out, usually we start to look towards leasing. So what I would love to do is keep in touch with Paul and with the co-chairs here of the committee, because I think one of the greatest things we can do is identify when these units have the least potential so that we can make sure the units are actually occupied for those who need them the most. And quite often, I think that's one of the big things that doesn't happen out there is when units are accessible and built new, they don't often target the marketing enough. And I know our management company would love to be able to work with you to kind of identify people who may need those housing jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that we really have talked a lot about in the full commission, but also in the accessibility commission here, and I know Noah's done a lot of work on this as well, is there's often enough Section 8 or HUD housing available, but then that next tier of income, there's often not enough housing, especially for people with disabilities,
right,
who would be able to afford more of a market rate amount, to a third of their income. Maybe they make in the $30,000 or $40,000 range and have a family. So I think this really addresses a major need in our community for that. So I'm really excited to see that. In terms of costs of the units, would that be similar in terms of a third of income, or what would it be?
So right now it is calculated on a range. Right now there's income limits as far as the rents go, and the rents are limited from $396 for an individual in a 1-bedroom upward. Although we've not set the top tiers on some of those completely to the 80% maximum. The other thing that we would do is we will take into consideration any of the utilities that are paid by the tenant. So there's an adjustment to the rent based on the utility allowance. But I will pull up our actual current proposed rent here, and it will be subject to some refinement because we have to update it every year as it's placed into development based on the current HUD model. Yeah. But right now we've set actually the tenant. So after we calculate in the tenant paid utilities, for somebody who would be disabled per se, but maybe independent living in a 1-bedroom, they would pay as little as $230. and upwards of the maximum rent for an 80% unit, if you will, on a 3-bedroom be $850. Okay. So it's a pretty accommodating range, and it's based on those incomes as well.
Okay, yeah, that's really good information. And again, I think that really hits into that particular market. I know with some of the TIF money that was used to build a couple accessible units in University Estates, those are kind of like above that level, in terms of income. It's in the $200,000 to $250,000 range. This more, is in that in between kind of level. So yeah, I really, really appreciate this. And
this is perfect housing for those that are already sort of in the start of being independent or needing some support, but maybe not full support.
Yeah.
And it's really encouraging, I think, when we can create holistic environments where people can really grow on their own, be on their own, have some privacy, but be networked into the community yet. And I think there's some great opportunities here for that.
One of the questions I had about the networking part was public transportation getting in and out of there. Is that something that was thought about?
So I know that we have had some preliminary conversation, both in our dialogue with planning to talk about what the future I think is along potentially the bike path extending at some point out there. I think there was some dialogue about right-of-way dedication for potentially extension out there. Frank, do you know where the actual public transit routes run?
You're on mute, Rob, if you were saying something.
I was going to comment, but I was talking to myself. Yeah, they run right by this and stop at University Estates currently, at least one of the routes, maybe both do. So I think there's 2 routes that go in opposite directions here. So maybe adding a stop where folks don't have to cross the street to get to University Estates might make sense.
Yep.
So that's one thing that I'm a little concerned about, I guess you could say. By the way, I love the design. I love all the work you're doing. It sounds fantastic. But connecting people to the outside world is the thing I'm a little concerned about. And thanks for the question about transit. That was exactly what I was going to ask, Diane. But also then connecting to the bikeway, like you just mentioned, how you can get people safely across 684 is one of the things I'm worried about. And if there's any way you can work with the city or county or whoever, actually it's a state route, isn't it? So there's complications, unfortunately, but figuring out some ways to make safe crossing to get people across 682 would be very helpful here.
Even if it's targeting seniors, adding a place for like a bus stop at the unit, and like building it into the parking lot, so that you don't need to go so far to get transit.
Right. Yeah. And we actually do have other developments where we have worked really closely with the local transit authority or organization that may operate even shuttle services. We are definitely not opposed. We have a lot of developments where we've actually integrated a bus stop loop or the ability to come right onto the property. We would love that opportunity. I mean, I think it makes a lot more sense to not have people waiting out at 682 when we could have them sheltered a little bit more, not sitting directly up on the traffic route. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think probably the person to talk to is Jessie Schmitzer. She's the mobility manager for the county.
Okay.
And she's involved with transit and the mobility services you mentioned, and so essentially all the transportation options. She helps manage or inputs into those.
Okay. And maybe Paul, if you happen to have her info, if you're able to connect me with her, that would be great. We'd love to follow up on that.
I can email that to you, Joe.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think there's some potential, of course, to decrease the speed along 682 on that route and kind of do something that was done on Union, which was putting in a narrower roadway with some push button kind of stoplights available for crossing the street. And something like that would work really well. And I do note that you need to leave by 1 o'clock. Noah, gotcha there. Yeah, so I think this is just such a positive thing. It sounds like you're kind of putting in the finishing touches on it.
Yeah, we do definitely have some additional development to go. I can actually I can confirm. I think Paul, maybe if you were part of that design meeting that we had with our team, I think even we maybe mentioned at one point, or I know at least our team has talked about it, the possibility of maybe even slowing down that speed through that section. That is, it's ironic. We're both thinking on some parallel paths here, so this is great.
One question you might have said, but I missed it, was how many units are there altogether in the?
There are 107 units total.
Okay. So there's like 50 on each side of the lake, of the pond.
Yep.
Okay.
There's 51 on one side and 50 on the other. Yep.
Yeah, I think it looks like a great project.
We're pleased to be able to build have this opportunity in Athens. It's much needed housing. I mean, the demand is humongous.
For a long time, it's been needed. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you, may I ask how you came across doing this, how the tax credits worked, and what was the process for you, Joe?
Well, it is a competitive process that the State Housing Agency, the Ohio Housing Finance Agency, or OFA as we call it, does an annual program of awarding credits. And they started to really relook at their policies of the way they distribute housing credits and to really dial into housing need, population, affordability, and what they've done in the past. And when they started lining all those things up, what they started realizing is that there were pockets in the state that they actually had underinvestments in, where there were significantly more population that needed the units than they had ever given credits to. And so very early on, we had targeted they looked by census tract to make sure that areas that they had already put a lot of housing into weren't getting additional credits right away. And when they really looked at Athens County as a whole, there was a huge pocket in Athens, period, that just had a lack of housing. I mean, off the charts, different than most other areas of the state. And so we, working with Frank, who's on the call here or on this as well, we identified this site, or Frank identified this site pretty early on as a great potential area, a site that could be annexed into the city, and obviously continue the growth, but built affordably and being a feasible project. And this past year, we were able to secure those credits. It was one of the highest scoring projects. And so we're just happy to be able to carry that project through fruition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that background information. I think it's, and just, further background, within the city of Athens, which this, it would be located within the city, I'm pretty sure there is, the college student housing historically has really driven up the rental market to the point where, bedroom, just like a bedroom is $500 to $600. And it really drives out a lot of working class or poor and working class families. So I think this is, again, just a great thing. And for people with disabilities who are maybe within those groups and have that intersecting labels too. I think this is great. I think there's some potential with, some slow down push button crosswalks to include the bike path spur that's already coming out that way to connect it there as well. And I think one thing that you really got going for you is there's a lot of land out that way. It's not like densely populated. You have some space to work with. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and you are 100% right. One of the big challenges is so that people are aware too, the way the tax credit housing world works too, we cannot rent to students. So that is a good thing. If it's somebody who is doing like part-time education, or if it's a family who has a child who's going to school, that's different. But generally, we are not allowed to do student housing, which is great. It keeps people who need the units the most, keeps the housing for them. There's no, one of the bad things with student housing is it drives up the cost and it creates a lot of substandard housing conditions, very high prices.
That is great.
So that's, it's one of the things that,
is great.
the affordable units will be set aside for really, again, for those that need it the most and who have to be able to pass some of the compliance checks and just make sure they're not, just simply a student or something like that.
Great.
That is great.
Absolutely. Does anyone else have additional feedback? I think the feedback on including some 42-inch doorways now is a really excellent idea. And otherwise, I'm interested. I think once things get a little bit more finalized, I think we'd like to invite you back again especially to talk about some of the outside areas and how to work through some of that. But it sounds like you've got some great knowledge already and work on it. Oh, one thing I do have to mention, being a native Appalachian, I can't let you off the phone without correct people from like Northern Ohio say Appalachian, and we say Appalachian.
Really noted.
We don't like those long A's. We like the short A's. I think that's right.
Too many years of living in Cleveland. That's the problem.
Right. I'll do it.
Joseph, I wanted to say too, I appreciate the idea that you guys have universal design in mind in the other units as well. As someone who is fairly able-bodied but still has issues with needing some ADA tools in terms of getting in and out of my shower and other areas within my home, thinking about that ahead of time, so that way the other units can have those items I'm really important, and I appreciate you doing that as well.
Thanks.
Sorry.
I was going to add one of the important things is not everybody's disability is something that confines them to just purely a wheelchair. And it's important to know that, there are all different types of disabilities when we use that word. So we try to be very cognizant of it. And quite often it's just good design. It actually doesn't cost anything for us to integrate a lot of those features throughout the units.
So one question I had was, if somebody needed to add those units, is your business the one that would put that together for them? So if somebody needed to add grab bars, or is that on the individual who lives there?
No, so under the Ohio Housing Finance rules and the way the compliance works on tax credit housing, which I always say is one of the best types of housing that's out there that's coming along because it has a lot of state integrated policies in it, is if a tenant makes a reasonable request, such as this, we do that. Our management company will come in and actually add those grab bars.
Great.
Any type of reasonable accommodation is made. And we've had a lot of various types of accommodations. And the longer we can keep a good tenant in a unit, it's just valuable to us. We've got a lot of tenants that have been in their units 20 plus years, and we're excited to keep those people in. It does no good to see kind of a revolving door of tenants, which is, the market world is very much about how do you put somebody in a unit and then keep increasing their rent nonstop. And you see a lot of high turnover after 1 or 2 years. In the affordable world, for a lot of the respected developers, you see that, tenants are living in our properties pretty much decades. So we're glad to be able to do that and encourage that.
Great. Yeah. One other question I had, could you work us through because this is like a recorded thing that the city puts on, and also a question that I had within the sensory apartments, what kind of features those have?
Yep. So the sight and hearing impaired apartments, let me go through and pull those. I know it includes the detectors that if there's a fire alarm or anything else like that, it has the strobes that flash, not just sound, for all the smoke detectors as well. I know that the doorbells are linked so that it's also a strobe on the wall that goes off in each room of the house or of the unit, rather than just a doorbell that depends on audio impairment. I'm trying to find the other features. I know there are other additional features. Bear with me as they pull those up. So yes, it is invisible smoke detectors. There are There's additional lighting for the surfaces in the kitchen areas. In those units, there are detectable warnings and detectable edges on counters and surfaces.
Yeah, so it's like different colors so that you can tell one thing from the other.
Yes. Yeah. High contrast work surfaces as well, color wise. I'm just making sure I haven't missed anything here.
Yeah, one thing that I'm like interested in for the future and for now is just homes and apartments that are autism spectrum disorder friendly, and I know that's something that we've been trying our best to kind of focus on within this committee. I think some of the best practices include noise reducing features within the house, adjustable lighting, and that kind of thing. But I don't think anyone within this group is an expert. Maybe I'm looking toward you, Diana, Noah, but
I know, not for autism, but for I looked at some videos that Gallaudet University put together about spaces, and one of the things they talked about was for people who do use sign language, having long spaces where corridors that don't have a lot of things that block them. So pathways would be open so that you wouldn't have a lot in the way or a lot of twists and turns because you can't see the people in front of you or behind you as easily. So for safety, they would prefer to have, and also for communication, longer open spaces than lots of curviness and trees in the way. Although I think trees are really important, but just designing it in a way that allows for openness.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I just want to, I have a note here from my architect too. Noah will like to know this, that although the doors right now are the 36-inch doors, all of the hallways are already sized in these units for a 42-inch width. So we'll definitely look at all the doors as well, making those as well wider where we can.
Great.
Another feature too that wasn't even a code required item, we made sure to have clearances on either side of things like stoves so that you have free space next to appliances. We've started to look at how kitchens lay out to the next degree of how people use them. So that was another important thing. Front controls on all the appliances, make sure there's no back controls on things.
One of the things that I would actually love to see happen, I don't know that they're out there yet, are adjustable height stoves. So like my father has diabetes. So for him, he needs to cook healthy food, but he can't stand on his feet for too long. So he would need to have something where he could sit and actually cook. And so, or have refrigerators that are lower because he can access them more easily than if they're too high up. So us starting to think as a society, as people age, what are the things that they're not going to be able to do as well, but they still want to stay in place, they still want to be healthy. And the engineering faculty at OU is really interested in designing those kinds of things. So if there was ever a way to integrate a university project with thinking about universal design in the mechanisms that are within a place, I think there would be a synergy there.
Okay, good to know.
Plant the seed.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else that you'd like to add, Paul, to this discussion, or things that we haven't thought about?
No, I think the discussion's been great. Just, to point out, this is a project that the city has been working on with Woda Cooper for a while now. I think we actually started, might have been almost a year ago. And so it's a slow process. There's an annexation involved, et cetera. We wanted to make sure that the project, because it is, we're bringing a new piece of real estate into the city, that it meets a lot of our city's goals. Affordable housing such as this is a big one. There's no doubt that need is available. We've had communications with this through the Affordable Housing Commission as well, and which Noah is a member of. And when Noah and I had some discussions, and I knew that from conversations with Mr. Fugate that there was a lot of ADA things built into this project, but no, I wanted to make sure, and Noah requested that we talk with the Disabilities Commission to get additional feedback. And so this has been the additional feedback that you all are providing right now is really helpful, bottom line. So thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you. And I would suggest maybe we could do it, and if this would be completed in 2022, maybe talking again in 9 months to a year might be a good time frame. It sounds like the end sites will be started on, but maybe we could talk about some of the outside layout once that's a little bit more fleshed out.
Great. That would be perfect.
Great.
Well,
All right.
thank you for coming.
You're welcome to stay on and join us, but also feel free to jump off Zoom anytime you can spend not on Zoom. I think the best is.
I live my life in half-hour increments, I think, now with appointments. Thank you very much for allowing us to present today. And anything additional feedback, if you even think of it, send written comments. We love written comments. Anything include, and we will honestly just keep looking at additional features we can build into this.
Okay, great. And one thing that maybe we can do is, if you were taking notes on this, Diane, maybe we could just send those notes over, because that's sometimes helpful.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Dave or Diane, feel free to just, if you don't have Joe's email, just send it to me and I'll forward it on.
Okay.
And Dave, am I needed for any other discussions today? If not, I'm going to jump off so I can get a quick bite to eat before my next meeting.
Do we want Paul to be able to eat everyone, or do we?
No. You better go eat.
I can put you on mute, or I can put myself on mute and put her in the kitchen, and I can hear you if you prefer too.
I think we're probably.
The AARP item might be something Paul should weigh in on.
Yeah.
Age-friendly Athens County?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Is that on the agenda?
It is.
Yeah, for subcommittees and how we could coordinate or.
Okay.
Are you involved in age-friendly, Paul?
I am. Yeah, I think I'm on. I'm not sure if it's a steering committee or an executive committee, and I'm also the co-chair of the housing domain subcommittee for that age-friendly Athens County planning group. Shauna Bolin is the other co-chair, so we're working on a lot of housing issues through that. We're looking for people to join. There's a whole bunch of different topics that are relating to this. As you know, aging. We are all aging at all times, and so we are trying to better understand how to make Athens County a better place to be aging in. So there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of categories that we're looking at: housing, social issues, equity issues, transportation, sustainability. There's a few others I forget. I think there's 8 or 9 categories that we've identified through AARP. There's 8 through AARP, and then we added sustainability to it.
Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, it's a lot of Zoom meetings. I'll tell you that right now. But if anybody is interested in being involved with it, it's a really great group. It's a large coalition across the county right now that's active in this. Not just there's city, there's university, there's villages, there's all kinds of nonprofit agencies and government agencies around the county that are participating and actively involved, senior groups, etc. We are continuing to look for more people to be involved. To my knowledge, I think there's nobody involved right now, and I could be wrong, but that isn't necessarily coming forward specifically as thinking about as an advocate for the disabled community. I think most of us are already advocates for the disabled community, but if anybody here was interested in working to represent the Athens City Commission on Disabilities, I can plug you in.
Yeah, I think Dr. Lewis may be plugging in or in the process. Is that right, Carolyn?
I'm on Tina Wilson's Diversity and Inclusion Committee, and I gave Paul a list of names that might be good for both the different committees and also for the overall county group in general.
Yeah,
That would-
absolutely. And one thing that we had talked about in our last committee meeting is to have some joint subcommittee and committee meetings, maybe every other one or something like that. Because I think there are two committees that kind of overlap with our committee right here, which are the Parks and Public Spaces and the Housing subcommittees with the age-friendly Athens. So I think that would kind of, and I think transportation as well, but those are things that kind of like dovetail nicely. So I had sent maybe your co-chair an email back after Rebecca Miller, I believe, had connected us, but I haven't heard back. So yeah, if you'd like to,
I was asked to join. I just do too much already.
Yeah. I know you do, Noah. No doubt.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. I think everybody in this call does.
Talking about disability, I certainly will be bringing that aspect in on that inclusion committee as well. So
yeah. And thanks everyone for all you do too. It always amazes me how interconnected everyone is, but also how much everyone does. Makes me feel like I'm, yeah.
So I might add that I've volunteered to serve on the transportation committee. I think Jesse Smitzer is the chair of that. So we haven't met yet since I volunteered, which was just a couple weeks ago. But I can report back if there's things that make sense to report back here to our meetings on that. So.
And Davey and everybody, maybe one approach, rather than saying, can we rope somebody in to go to a million meetings with us? Maybe the recommendation, maybe a more simple process would be, once we get into topical discussions. Right now, we're just kind of building survey questions and things like that, which is also, I'll make sure with the survey committee that we're considering asking questions about disability status and things like that. If you have, and I'm happy to share the draft surveys with you, Davey. If the commission wants to give some feedback on a potential question or two to add. But maybe the better way forward is, once we're starting to do topical discussions, is to maybe just convene a meeting or two to really talk about the situation of aging and disabilities, and how to better understand that.
Yeah, they're absolutely intersectional. And I think we could do something like we did today, where we just have those meetings jointly, where we all get together on a Zoom call like this and share ideas and just make sure that our kind of knowledge is shared all together.
Right. And Carolyn, I'm happy to hear that you're working on this too. So you're perfect.
I have to go off of here. I have a board meeting for something else.
All right, cool.
Hey,
Thank
Noah.
you, Noah. See you later.
Bye, Noah.
Bye, Noah. Thank you, Paul.
You bet.
Yeah, thanks for convening this, Paul. I appreciate it.
No problem. Now can I have lunch?
Yep, go. Now you can
Go
eat.
for it.
Thank you all. Have a great day. Hang in there.
Eat healthy though, Paul. Don't eat unhealthy, okay?
I promise. I'll have some veggies.
Good.
Bye, Real Paul.
I real Paul, yeah, really. That joke.
So yeah, I think one thing that I think I would like to do is I would like to spend some more time on the Washington and State Street streetscaping projects before we come back to it. I was going to kind of revamp it a little bit and get it more put together. So I think that might be something that we could table until next meeting. How would everyone feel about that? Okay. And I don't think it's like as much of a time crunch. One thing, oh shoot, and Noah just left, so we can't talk. The city pool accessibility. I think one thing we could do is just get our notes and just type that up, so that we can send it over to Noah and send it over to Paul and to Steve and the mayor's office as well. And I guess just first of all, I thought that went really well, and I thought that's a great example of how our committee can serve with that people from the, I forget the name, but with Joe and Frank from the housing development. I thought that was just like exactly
Right.
the type of feedback. And yeah, I think that kind of thing just really works well and allows us to give feedback. So that being said, I would like to move into talking about city pool accessibility and to talk a little bit about our notes from that. I don't remember, Diane, have we already compiled that information, or is that something that
Well,
we could, yeah.
we sort of talked about it. I don't think it'll take that long. We talked about overall, it looked like most things are accessible. The places that needed changed are adding actuators to the restrooms, was adding in a Hoyer lift, and what was the third one? I don't remember.
There was some railing.
There was what?
Railings to walk into the pool.
Oh, the rail. Yeah, the rail going into the, it has the step-free zone.
Yeah, would you like for me to pull up a document and we can just kind of compile our notes and send it to Noah and to everyone else?
Yeah, I could just write them up because there really were only 3 things, but mostly we found. Did you find anything else? Those were the only 3 I remember.
Yeah, those were the 3 things. So whenever we looked at the restrooms, the changing family ADA accessible restrooms, there are 4 of them. They met all ADA accessibility. They had the 60-inch turning radius. The only things they didn't have were push button doors to be able to open. That's not something that's required by the ADA. But in my notes, I remember writing that some of the doors were too heavy.
Right.
They didn't meet the 5-pound limit. So something that could be done right away for next summer. Let's say that this is a project if it's 2 summers from now, this is something that could be done now, is making that door not so hard to open.
Oh, that's true. They could adjust the tightness.
Yeah, I would even suggest to not have any tightness to those doors.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that was one of the things they started to do at OU. If the door was one that didn't have a safety reason for needing to be closed, so if it's in a fire lane or I'm not sure outdoors if there is any kind of restriction like that.
I would doubt it.
Then taking off the arm thing, the door arm.
Yeah, the door closer thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea for now. And again, having a push button door opener is a better solution. But until that happens, the other idea that Dr. Lewis had was to, and this is something I had never thought about, but I know if you travel to like Las Vegas or to certain places of LA, or really other cities as well now, they have Hoyer lifts that you can bring your own straps to be able to, raise yourself up, and then to get put into a transfer seat or a pool wheelchair or the pool lift. And that would be huge because people like me and Dr. Lewis, other people don't like, it's not necessarily safe to just have any random person lifting us. Right. Like using a Hoyer is just so much better and easier. And then a rail.
I looked at some, the price range is anywhere from $250 up to, 1,000. So you can probably get one for about $300-400.
Oh, okay. And then your own.
I'm right, Davey. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, for more of a basic one, it's $250, and then if you want like an electrical one, which I don't think the pool would necessarily need, you're looking at like $1,000 to $3,000 depending on the type. Generally, the Hoyer lifts can lift up to 250 pounds. So I think somewhere between 250 and 350 pounds, and I would advocate for spending the extra $50 just to make sure that you get one that works for everyone.
Do you have any do you want to send a link to something that we'd recommend for them to get?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Send it to me. I'll add it to the list.
Okay, and I'm in process of getting one for myself as well. I think Dr. Lewis and I were talking about that. And then for the one question I had for the pool was for the metal bar, like for there to be like a railing to get down.
Right.
I'm wondering where the best spot for that would be. Because I know in terms of liability, I think it would be hard to put it in the middle, like,
right.
Because there's so many kids, like someone could fall and hit their head on like a metal railing. Does anyone have any ideas about how to do that? Because it's so nice to be able just to walk into a pool.
Right.
That's great. But if you need to hold on to something.
Could you put like a rail bar, like you'd have it next to a toilet and have it just go down the ramp? So it'd be
sorry, when we lived in Tennessee at the YMCA where we would go, they had a rail like that went down into the water.
And Tiffany, do you think it would be good to have it on both sides, or do you think just one side as you're walking down would be good?
So I haven't actually been to the pool, so I don't really know what the space looks like. In my mind, I can't envision it, but I know at the pool where we were in Tennessee, it was just on one side that they had it.
You might take a look at Beacon School, because I'm not sure. I know they have a rail, but I'm not sure how it's configured.
Yeah, I can't remember that either. I've been there a number of times and I can't remember it.
Yeah, at the city pool, it's just like zero step. It's all like you just walk in, but there's no rail. There's no rail on either side. You just like walk in. So I think maybe our recommendation then would be to have one rail. Generally with ADA, you would have rail. No, I think you can just have rail on one side.
Yeah, I think you could too for ADA.
One thing I would think about is maybe like how many times this railing would need to go into the ground. Oh, sorry.
I couldn't hear what you said.
How many times this railing would need to go into the ground?
Okay.
So maybe when it's going into the ground, that could be like padded. So if someone's walking and trips and falls, or if there's like kids around, because having like metal rails. And I think another thing, we would want it like against one of the sides of the pool. We wouldn't want it in the middle of the pool.
Right. So what do you mean about, I was envisioning sort of a metal one that could go underwater.
Yeah, but to start off, it would have to come up to like the 42-inch range high, kind of freestanding.
Oh, I see. So you're saying above, when you start going down the slope, you should have one that you can hold on to.
Yes.
Go down. Yeah, that's a good question. How would they design that? Yeah, okay. So you're saying the material that's up above the pool on the side before it goes down. I wonder if it could be like go across and then go angled down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. They must have made them somewhere in Tennessee.
That's funny. Can I share my screen really quick?
Absolutely.
I found one. I'm trying to make it a little bit bigger first. This is not the one that I have in mind, but this is an example anyway. Can you?
Not yet.
Here. Oh, I have to click share at the same time. Does that get it?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Can you send us this picture?
I can. Yeah.
Does this make sense to you, Davey?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. So,
we
like, right, like
fun.
as you're going, yeah, I think that totally and completely makes sense. You can see that this pool has like a 2-tiered system.
Yeah.
So over to the right of the ramp. So this is actually a ramp into the pool.
Right.
Whereas their pool in Athens, the whole thing is a ramp.
Right.
So we can just designate part of this as being like an ADA accessible ramp. So if someone just is a little unstable walking, or maybe they use a cane, but they don't take the cane into the water, they set their cane down, they grab onto the railing and walk down that way.
Yeah, and having this be along the side, I think that makes the most sense for where you would put that railing.
Yeah, me too.
Great.
Yeah, I'll share that, and other ones that I might be able to find, I can add some of those. Now I have to learn how to stop sharing on Zoom. I don't use Zoom so often.
Yeah, if you go over and you click stop share. Hey, almost.
Oh, here it is over here on my third screen. Who knew? Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Tiffany. That's exactly what I was thinking, or what we were thinking. Yeah, but otherwise the pool has 2 lifts into the pool. They have really great seating. And I think we should probably include that in what we're saying as well, that it's really great that they have seating that's accessible. It's great that they have 0-step entrance and 2 lifts. And yeah, the restrooms are great. We just have these things to kind of take it to the next level and make it complete, even more accessible.
I think some of the changing areas, the ones that I'm not sure that they had an accessible changing area, except they did have accessible showers that could be a changing area. But the restrooms looked like they were, I'm trying to remember if they all were in the group ones. I don't know that they all were, but there were available ones, so they should be okay.
Yeah, they did have changing tables in each of those locations.
Right.
Once this is all done, we must have a pool party for the commission. Or get the little party room, and
that's a great idea.
Party next summer, whenever this COVID's over.
Good idea.
Absolutely. Thanks for sending that over.
We should tell them when we want to have the party, and say that you need to make these changes before that date.
Right.
Our goal is by the time COVID's over, we want to have a party.
Right.
Improvements using forms. So yeah, I think we've talked about our city pool accessibility. Diane, do you just want to go and send that to Noah to add on to, and also to Paul and
sure,
and to Steve and Patty as well, and we'll keep rolling with that.
So I'll send the pool part, and then Noah will send them the city building.
Yeah, and I think Noah might have had some additional thoughts on the pool. I think he did kind of on his own as part of his contract with the city, or
okay,
whatever. Yeah. So if you, we can just send it to him and send it to everyone else. That way
he can include it or not. Whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think this has been a pretty full meeting. And like I said, I think we can just kind of table the Washington and State Street streetscaping, and I can work on a little bit. And Rob, I think you had mentioned that you were going to maybe try and work on a little bit too. I haven't had time.
I just got some time recently and made some updates. So I started to clean it up a bit, add some photos, and those kind of things. So I'll continue to work on that this next month. And
okay, and I'll add on some of the screenshots that I grabbed as well. And by next month, we should be able to kind of finalize things and prepare a report for the city.
That sounds good.
Okay, and I think otherwise I would move to close out the meeting. Does that sound good to everyone? Is there anything else we should be thinking about?
It sounds
Dave, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
As this has nothing to do with accessibility, but did you all decide on a date and time for advocacy?
I think that was Noah and Sly were talking about it.
right.
I'll check with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay.
Tiffany sent us a couple images, so if you want to include those on that report, I'll go ahead and look up a Hoyer lift and send that over to you.
Okay.
Yeah, the second image is the one from the pool that I have in my mind. I am thinking that it is a little more in line with what the Athens pool is in terms of how quickly it goes into depth, but I'm not sure. But what I liked about it was that it went all the way until you were in the water. Like you were well into the water before the handrail disappeared. So I really liked that. I know I needed it. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go and share my screen just really quickly so that I can show you that. So for people who maybe aren't as familiar with Hoyer lifts, this is what Hoyer lifts are. You have a little crank right here that kind of cranks a person up. Let's see if I can get a better picture. Okay, here we go. So yeah, right here, there's this crank. So you kind of crank someone up. You put someone's, you bring your own sling because everyone uses a different type of sling. And then you just hoist yourself up. This moves so you can then be placed where you need to go.
And then somebody just moves it over to the edge of the pool and.
Yeah, then you get transferred into like the lift, the pool lift. So you get put in that chair, and then you get swung into the pool, or you get put into the pool wheelchair and you get pushed into that zero entry space.
Well, we're definitely having a pool party.
Definitely. It'll be very exciting. Does that sound good, Nick? Does that sound good, Eli?
No.
No. No pool?
No pool.
You're not a pool person?
No.
Oh.
Have you been to the Athens pool, Eli? Yeah.
I have a pool.
You have a pool?
No.
Oh.
I do.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. All right. Well, yeah. I'd like to go ahead and motion to close the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. I think that's